welcome everyone to our 2021-2022 Student Senate Executive Board debates. The way that debates is going to work, typically it's in person, obviously with everything going on, has to be over Zoom. Every candidate submitted a video to me. When it is the candidate's turn, I will be sharing my screen, I'll be showing the video, and then we will open up the floor to questioning from the audience. So I will be the facilitator, the mediator for these debates tonight, and we are going to be starting with treasurer, and then we are going to be going to our VPOD, so our Vice President of Organizational Development, then we're going to do our VP of CAB, and then our Vice President, and then President at the very end. Without further ado, let's start out with our treasurer candidates. We have Nicholas Gato and George Papagiorgio.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicholas Gato. I'm a junior finance major here at York College of Pennsylvania, and as you just heard, I'm running for treasurer of Student Senate for the 2021-2022 academic term. I'm here to talk a little bit about my platform and why I think you should vote for me. So I actually ran for treasurer back in 2019 in the spring, and I won on the promise that I would bring Student Senate into the digital age. We were using a lot of paper for our processes, and the finance side of things were really no different. So reimbursement requests, additional funds requests, everything would come in a paper form or at best an email, and then it would kind of just sit in a bin until somebody got a chance to look at it. Instead of that system, I created what I call the budget access request system and the club financial system, which basically allow you to submit a request from anywhere in the world in real time using a Google form and then track it in a corresponding Google Sheet. So that was kind of my big initiative for that first term, and I would really like to build on that idea of modernizing Senate, increasing transparency and accessibility, and generally making us function better for what we're intended for, to serve the students, and especially our student organizations who in turn give back to the whole student body and the campus. So how would I do that? Well, first, I would like to make some minor tweaks to our existing system. There are a few types of requests that aren't currently reflected on that budget access request form that ties into that whole system of Google Sheets and Google Forms. Things like capital expenditures, that would be like if you're a club sport and you want to buy equipment that's going to last year after year. Technically it belongs to Senate, but we cover it 100% for you and let you use it for the whole semester. The other thing I'd like to add are interest-free loans to that system. So that's a whole other topic, and I'd encourage you to ask me questions about it. But essentially, it exists for fundraising. It just hasn't been advertised recently in Student Senate. Moving into number two, I want to help clubs budget better by extending the timeline. So right now, you're given like 3-4 weeks maybe to complete a budget, but that's in the midst of oftentimes elections for clubs. So there are new officers coming in. And we have finals and term papers right around the corner because we're always releasing these budget packets at the end of the semester. At the very least, I think the budget packet should be released earlier, but I think it would be even more beneficial if we gave clubs time during the off season, so during the summer and during a little bit of winter break, so that they have time to really plan out their events and make sure that they know exactly how much money they need. Because there's nothing worse than planning this whole event and then realizing you come up short and you have to come up for an additional funds request, and then you're only going to get 90% of what you ask for. Or you request way too much money and then you get a deduction the following semester because you couldn't spend it all. You know, that's not a good place to be. So in addition to extending that timeline, I also want to have some workshops available. That way those new officers, they don't have to feel bad. They can just come up and be like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Okay, well, we're going to upskill you, and then you're going to know exactly how to build a budget, and you're going to build it to Senate standards. Building on that idea of doing workshops, I also want to have a standalone video library, created in conjunction with our Vice President of Organizational Development and our parliamentarian, and that'll cover everything that Senate does. So not just budgets, but how to form a new club, apply for permanent status, how to make updates to your constitution, heck, how to draft a constitution. I know it's not widely publicized, but when you're starting a new club, there's essentially 3 things you have to do. Come up with a club and a reason to have it, come up with how you're going to use your $150 preliminary budget, and then craft a constitution. And I don't know about you, but I don't have much experience writing constitutions. So I think that would be super helpful. Moving on from that, fourth point on the list, I would like to help with fundraising because, fun fact, Student Senate money can only be used for certain things, and all of the Student Senate money comes directly from the Student Activity Fund. So we try to limit things that only benefit a small group of individuals on campus, things like custom t-shirts and trips that serve no educational value and banquets, so anything really that's fun for a club to do, we can only contribute like this much. So fundraising is an important part of campus life, especially for our club sports. If you want to have a custom jersey, I think that's awesome, but the Student Activity Fund can't be used to pay for it. So how do we alleviate that? Well, I think we should have an official fundraising assistance program, or at least some body that exists to help you connect with the bookstore and dining services in the development office when you want to source merchandise or food for sale, or you want to pursue a corporate sponsorship off campus, because you have every right to do so. It just has to be cleared by the development office. Moving on to the fifth and final item that I'd like to cover, Student Senate has a website, right? It's on our college website. We have a web page, but it's not really usable. So I would like to implement a Student Senate website that incorporates everything that you need for Senate, so you don't have to go to a separate Google Drive every time you want to find something or something's been misplaced. You want to see, did you hit your requirements for this semester? Boom, it'll be listed. You want to access your budget? Boom, it'll be there. Going along with that, I think it's really important that students have a voice on campus. And I know everyone says, oh, I want to be a voice for the students, but how are you being a voice for the students? Well, I really see two practical ways to do it. Either you survey students daily, but I know everyone's had enough of the daily symptom checker. What we could do is start a forum on a Student Senate website, and everyone would have an opportunity to voice the opinions that are important to them. And then Student Senate can gauge how important it really is based on the engagement with those posts. I would encourage you, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But that's my platform. Those are kind of the 5 initiatives I want to work on: upgrading our digital finance system, extending the budgeting timeline and adding some workshops, creating a comprehensive video library so that you don't always have to come to us when you have a question. You can start there. That way you're not waiting 2 days for a response if we're backlogged. Number 4, like I mentioned, the fundraising initiative. I think that's important. Ask me questions about it. I'm still learning, honestly, with that, because it's not something that's been pushed heavily in the last couple years on Senate. Number 5, Student Senate website. Like I said, I think that'll be an awesome hub for all of our student activities here on campus. Think of it like Facebook for your college student activities, but totally customized.
Hi, my name is George Papageorgian, and I'm a sophomore cybersecurity management major for Student Senate Treasurer. One reason I'm running for Student Senate Treasurer is to help increase student budgets and help get more students involved around our campus and local community. One example of organizations doing their part at York as well as in their community is Greek Life. Greek Life fundraises thousands of dollars yearly for different organizations, such as the Be Positive Foundation to help financially support families that have kids with cancer, Homes for Our Troops to help build homes for disabled veterans, local philanthropy events to support the SPCA, and women's breast cancer fundraisers are just a few of the many great organization fundraisers that Greek Life has continued to raise money for despite COVID restrictions. As for some experience I have, I'm a manager at a local small business for over 2 years, tracking and organizing finances as one of my main tasks with the job. I've handled many budgets through talking with previous Student Senate treasurers. The budgets I've worked with and ones that Student Senate uses are very similar and would be easily adaptable. If you have any more questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we will move into the questioning period. So does anyone have any questions for our treasurer candidates? You can address them to one candidate or both candidates.
Hello.
Hello.
So I have a question for Nick Gato. He has been very active and very supportive of CAB, and we love him very much. However, he is both running for Senate and CAB. So I'd like to know, if he gets both positions, what's his plan to keep that all in order? Because they're both such large positions.
Thank you, Maitland. That's an excellent question. And it's definitely something that I've been considering leading up to this. So I guess the best way to say it is I want to take a chapter out of Eli Thornton's book, If anyone remembers when Eli was here, he was both parliamentarian and an executive member of CAB. So I use a project management tool called Jira, which, is neither here nor there, but essentially I log everything that I have to do for a week into a comprehensive backlog, or a sprint board, as I call it. And I chunk my work based on what I have to do. So essentially, I don't have a task in a given week that isn't cataloged and has hours assigned to it. So it'll just be a process of chunking my work based on priority, obviously giving equal weight to both Student Senate and Campus Activities Board. But it's something that's been done in the past, and I think it's something that I would be more than willing to handle moving forward. I'm not as involved on campus as I have been in the past, actually. I've kind of hyper-focused into Student Senate and CAB. So I definitely think, aside from my academics, I'll have plenty of time to work on both.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? All right, I have a question for both candidates. So obviously you are in charge of creating the budgets for clubs and organizations. So how would you avoid bias when creating these budgets for the clubs?
All right, I guess I'll hop in here. So this was something that was started 2 treasurers ago with Katie Krutz, or no, actually 3 now. So prior to her term, everything was kind of done, like you said, on a subjective basis. So it was subject to our implicit biases. However, she created a formula that I carried on when I was treasurer 2 years ago. And it was a really good way to kind of level set the field. So it was all based on, okay, are you using your budget? What percentage are you using, and what percentage of it is actually being used for what you allocated? In other words, so are you using it to host events on campus, or are you using it just kind of for fun within your own organization? So what I would like to do is create a new formula. Obviously, we've had a lot of trouble the past year with spending, due largely in part to COVID. So people are adapting. This is the first time we've had to budget this way. And Aiden's approach, our current treasurer Sylvester, was to kind of go back to more of that flexible case-by-case basis way of going through budget applications. And I think that was what we needed for the time, but I would really like to start shifting back to more of a formulaic automated system. That way, you're not trying to play me and how I feel, but you can follow a playbook. So if you want a certain budget, that's a goal you can march toward. It's not some ethereal thing.
So personally, I think a formula way of going about it would be good. But I also think with the past 2 semesters and how COVID has hit, a lot of organizations haven't been using their budgets like they normally would. So you would also have to take that into account with everything. But as for biases with other organizations, I would try to have some type of like check and balance type of way, like making sure they send me some type of receipt. If they came up for a lot of money, maybe see a receipt of why they needed such a big fund amount for that. So if they were using it to purchase like equipment, I'd want to see a receipt just to make sure that they're actually using it for what they say they're using it for, and keeping them accountable with that way, no matter what organization or club it is.
All right, thank you. Marissa Boyles, go ahead.
Hi, my question is for George. So you talked about like Greek life and having their budgets and everything. Right now, there's selective clubs, so they don't get a budget from Senate. So are you planning to like change the constitution for that, or what? Like, I just wanted to know what your game plan was, because right now I don't think they get a budget from Senate. I know Panhandle and IFC does, but I just want to see what your plan was for that.
So depending on if I get the position, it would really depend on what the Constitution actually says and what I can do with the Constitution. If the Constitution can't be changed, there's a possibility of still allocating more money to IFC and getting it to other Greek life organizations through that way. But I haven't held a position before to see what kind of like wiggle room and what I can pass and what I can't pass is. But that's definitely something that I will work on. But thank you so much for the question.
I have a question for Nick.
Go ahead.
So Nick, in the past you were treasurer. What would you say you've learned from the position, and what kind of things you'd like to change if you were to get the position again?
All right, now that's an excellent question. So my learning process actually started a little bit before I became treasurer. I was treasurer pro temp, so I mentioned Katie Krutz was the treasurer before me. And I noticed that we did a lot of things on paper, which caused a lot of, I guess I would say, hold-up problems where people would submit something and then it wouldn't be gotten to for several days. So that was kind of where the accounting system came in. So building on that, I kind of want to increase the transparency more. Like I mentioned with the website, having a forum for students to voice their opinions, and then also the fundraising initiative. So I guess if I had to pick one thing to really hammer on, I would say it's the fundraising. So it's something that we used to make a really big deal of on campus, go back 10 years. When you got your budget packet, you had to fundraise 25% of whatever you were asking for. So you had to include not only line items for what you were planning to spend it on, but what you were planning to, how you were planning to raise that 25%. I don't think we have to go to that extreme, but I would definitely like to put a greater focus on it because I find, going back to your point, Marissa, about Greek Life and how they don't get a direct budget, I think they get something like $10,000 a year to IFC and Panhandle to help with some things, but fundraising is such an integral part of what they do. And in many cases, they're doing it kind of as a one-man show. I would like to allow Senate to not be a bureaucratic hub, but be a service hub. So we're helping those organizations connect with the resources on and off campus that they need in order to maximize their fundraising potential.
Any other questions? All right, I saw Madison Calamida's hand first.
My question is for Nick. Last year, you were faced with issues which ended you stepping down as your role of vice president. What is your plan to ensure this does not occur again?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a perfect point to hit on. It kind of goes back to that time management piece with, can I balance between academics and CAB and Senate? And the way that I've struck that balance, I mentioned that project management tool that I use, Jira. So that was something I didn't have in my life before. I was relying on handwritten notes, memory, and Google Calendar. That was kind of my MO for a long time. But I realized that for myself, I need something a little more formalized. So I use a Jira board. So essentially, when a task comes into me, what do? I catalog it. So I sort, okay, what does this belong to? Does it belong to Senate, CAB, or does it belong to one of my classes? And I have what's called an EPIC. An EPIC is a long-term goal that I'd like to achieve. So for a class, it's a 4.0 in the class. Then that task gets dropped into one of several buckets. Those buckets are called sprints. It's a repetition cycle that I use to complete work on a weekly basis. And then every time I start a new week, I open a new sprint. It opens up on my sprint board. And then I track to do, in process, and then done. And that's how I meticulously work through every assignment that I have. I did not have that tool at my disposal last semester, and I allowed myself to fall behind, and then it turned into one of the death spirals. And I'm sure we've all been there with a snowball effect. It just happened to hit me in Senate this time. So in order to iron that out, and I haven't had any problems this semester having used the new tool. So I hope that answers your question, but thank you.
Is it like a website and can I use it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Jira is a free tool from Atlassian. It's spelled Jira, and you can create a free account. It's actually designed specifically for doing software development on a team. So it's meant for 10, 100, 1,000 plus people to be using at one time, but it works really well for an individual too. If you want a dumbed down version, they also make something called Trello. The mascot is a husky.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for our treasurer candidates? All right, Adam Silverman.
Hey everyone. Nick, I just had a quick question for you. You discussed in your platform the loan process. Could you just speak a little bit more to that, and then just how you could inform clubs about it? And that could go for both candidates, just how to inform clubs more about these financial procedures, because it could be confusing.
Absolutely. So when I became treasurer the first time, I knew about this, but because it's in our constitution, but there's not a lot of documentation about how the process used to work. So essentially, if you want to do something with Student Senate money, let me start over. If you want to fundraise, you can't use Student Senate money to pay for anything that you're selling or using for fundraising purposes. Like if you want to sell sodas at Fall Fest, as a means of raising money for your club, you're not allowed to use Senate money to buy it. So The loan process is, okay, I'll take out $100 and I'll go buy soda. That way I can sell it at the event. And then I pay that loan back within 60 days. The other stipulation is that it can't exceed 25% of your regular budget. So if you only have a $200 budget, you're only going to be able to take a quarter of that, so $50 to go out and buy whatever you need. So it's not something that we have done recently. I think the last thing I was able to find on it was from like 2013 for women's lacrosse. So it would be something that we would do in the beginning on a trial basis. It would be really important, the education piece there, so people know exactly what they're on the hook for. And then if it is successful, then it's something I think we either continue in perpetuity or strike from the Constitution if it fails.
Thank you.
If anyone has any other questions for our treasurer candidates, feel free to reach out to both of them as elections begin tomorrow. So now we will move on to our Vice President of Organizational Development. So our candidate for that position is the current individual who is holding that position, Charlie Green. So I'm going to share his video with you all.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. How you doing today? My name is Charlie Green, and I am currently a sophomore accounting major here at York College, Pennsylvania, as well as that I'm running for re-election as the Vice President of Organizational Development for Student Senate. Come, take a walk with me, and I'll tell you why you should re-elect me for the 2021-2022 school year. First things first, my favorite thing about this position is all the wonderful people that I've been able to meet and help develop their passions and get them to be clubs here on campus. So the things I'd like to continue is to make that process for students easier so they can continue to obtain provisional status and begin their organizations that they're so passionate about. I also want to work to help get commuter students involved. I know with the COVID-19 pandemic, some of them feel isolated because not on campus fully, as well as some of them are fully virtual. My goal is that once these restrictions are lifted, we can have these students included more often. Other things I'd like to continue is working on the York Unified initiative that I started this past fall semester to help raise awareness and start conversations about students' mental health. I hope to bring this forward to continue holding these different conversations. Other things I'd like to work on is helping to bridge the gap between main campus and the student athletics. And I'm always willing to listen to students' voices, allowing them to raise their questions and concerns about different topics and issues they might have about your YCP's campus. You can always feel free to email me at cgreen26@ycp.edu. Lastly, I plan to continue to work closely with the Sustainability Committee on Student Senate, hoping to bring awareness on how you, as an individual, as an organization, as well as us as a community, we can continue to be sustainable here on your college campus. And that is why you should vote for me to be your EBoard for the 2021-2022 school year. That's about all the time I have. I gotta get back to work. I hope you have a sportastic rest of your day. See you later.
All right, thank you, Charlie, for your speech. I will now open
It was my pleasure.
I will now open the floor to questions from audience members. Does anyone have any? Okay, I have one. So, this question was similar to one that was asked for treasurer candidates. So you have held the VPod position before. So what have you learned in this position that you hope to carry out into the next term?
So first off, very good question. I want to put out a little disclaimer. If I'm speaking too softly, please ask me to speak up. I'm currently still at my internship, so I'm just trying to be a little bit more on the DL with my voice. Something that I've learned about this position is that, man, do I miss being in person and seeing people face to face. I've learned that answering emails in a quickly timely manner is a very important thing in this digital age, and helping people get their clubs to start going, as well as like staying in contact with them. And still a skill that I'm, like, even as simple as it sounds, developing and making better at it. So after learning this, and hopefully with like the restrictions beginning to lift as the vaccine becomes more available, as more and more Americans are receiving it, is that really coming back to the face-to-face aspect and having meetings when people are holding clubs or hoping to form different organizations. So And like I've also learned that people get Zoom fatigued very fast. So once these restrictions are lifted, to begin to encourage students to meet in person, to continue to start the organizations up again, even if they've even taken a few semesters off or taking a break just due to like the climate of the world, just to encourage them to get back at it and get involved on campus again.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Again, if you find that you have a question for Charlie, feel free to contact him with any other questions you may have. So now we will move into VP of the Campus Activities Board. A disclaimer, Emma could not attend the debates tonight because she is currently in class right now. So I'm still going to show her video, and so that way you can see her speech and why she is running for this position. So if you have any questions for her, she gave me permission to put her email in the chat, so I will do that. So let me pull up her video.
Hi everybody, my name is Emma Simpson and I'm very excited to be running for Vice President of the Campus Activities Board this semester. I'm a sophomore HR Management and Professional Writing major, and I have been lucky enough to be on CAB for the past 2 semesters. This semester I have been an executive chair and I've been mainly in charge of the take and make activities around campus. Some of my bigger events that you may have seen are the Valentine's Day cookies and the Mason jar light events, as well as things like the tie blankets and the puzzle competition. Some of the best qualities I have for running for this are I am highly organized, I am very good at communicating, and I'm very dependable. And on top of that, I've got to spend this past semester learning from some of the best leaders on this campus, my fellow executive chairs on CAB. They've really done an amazing job at showing me how everything works and making sure that I can communicate clearly with everyone and understand the role of CAB Vice President. So if I am elected, I'm really hoping to be able to bring some fun new events to campus next semester, even though we may still have to be remote because of COVID. I'm excited to be able to help executive chairs plan out what they'd like to do and hopefully get a little more input from the student body regarding what you guys would like to see on campus next semester. Yeah, so just overall, thank you for your time, and I'm really hoping you'll vote for me.
All right, so that was Emma's video. Again, I will put her email in the chat, and if you have any questions for her, feel free to email her. So next we'll move into Vice President. So we have one candidate, and that is Ty Schumacher. So I will show Ty's video, and then we will move on to questioning.
Hi, my name is Ty Schumacher. I'm running for Student Senate Vice President. I am a second-year student, and I am a political science major with a minor in business administration. I strive to be as involved on campus as possible. I am a presidential research fellow, I'm a peer advisor, I'm a member of the Student Alumni Council, I'm the fundraising chair for Phi Sigma Pi Honors Fraternity, and I am coming up on my 2nd year on Student Senate. During my time on Student Senate, I have served many roles. I was on the Academic Affairs Committee, in which I helped to increase the number and variety of textbooks available in the library. For the past 3 semesters, I have been Student Services Chair. My committee and I have worked on a variety of projects to improve student life on campus. As Student Senate Vice President, I want to continue improving life on campus by focusing on unity and our sense of community. YCP is our home away from home, but COVID-19 changed that. We have done an amazing job moving to a high flex format, but it's so hard to feel like you're part of a community over Zoom. Thankfully, it looks like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. With millions of Americans being vaccinated every day and the weather allowing for outdoor gatherings, it may be possible to begin switching from virtual to in-person. My goal is to work with administrators and students to bring back our sense of community as quickly and as safely as possible. I want to embrace our new normal and begin working towards the old normal in whatever way possible for the sake of our community. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you for your time, and remember to vote.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Ty? All right. I have a question. So you talked about adjusting students to the new normal that is now on our college's campus. So do you have any ways to kind of help students assimilate to that new normal and get used to it on our campus?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think one big thing would just be making sure that everyone is comfortable on campus. I know everyone's spending a lot of time in their dorms, so venturing out to go to the dining hall or hang out with friends outside can be really anxiety producing. So making sure that they feel comfortable doing that is a big deal. And I think making sure that students feel safe, like they won't get COVID while they're on campus. So that means, well, I'm not sure what that'll mean in the fall, but following the guidelines set by the CDC and making sure that all the students follow those guidelines so the rest of their fellow students feel comfortable.
Thank you. Any other questions? Adam Silverman.
Hey, Ty. So you've been a chair since the spring of last year, right? And so I just wanted to ask, as vice president, you work closely with the committees. Just what are some ideas to keep them engaged with their projects and, relating them to Senate? Also, are there any specific projects you're hoping they may carry out that you'd like to see?
I'll start with the second question. I know as Student Services Chair, one of the big projects we're working on right now is filming dorm videos to go on the ResLife webpage. We hope that we're going to have that done by the end of this semester, but if not, I would really like them to continue that project and see that to fruition. And in general, keeping the executive cabinet members engaged and committed to their projects. I would just be encouraging them to pick projects that they care about, that they want to see come to fruition, not projects that they are not interested in. And I would also be there to lend any support, if it means coming to meetings with them between administrators or helping set up meetings with administrators, because I know that's sometimes hard, especially if you're a new chairperson.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ty? All right, seeing none. If you think of any other questions, feel free to contact Ty on your own time after debates are over. All right. So next we will move into our last position, which is president. So we have two candidates for this position. We have Sophie Barnes and Spencer Smith. And who would like to go first?
I can go. If
Okay.
that's
All right.
I was going to say, you can take it.
Hi, my name is Sophie Barnes and I'm running for Student Senate President. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a junior here at YCP where I'm majoring in English and minoring in marketing and French. And as far as my history on Senate goes, I joined Senate the very beginning of my freshman year thanks to the encouragement from my orientation leader. And then my sophomore year, I became the secretary, having a position on EBoard. And then I decided to take a step back the beginning of my junior year because I got an internship and I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to handle everything on my plate. But once I knew that I would be able to handle everything, I came back second semester of my junior year, and now here I am running for president. So as far as my plans and ideas go, firstly is AmpFlow. This is a company that I learned about while on Student Senate conference my sophomore year, and this is a company based out of Ohio. It's female-owned, that works to put free feminine products in women's restroom on campuses and as well as in businesses. So this was a project I began working on as soon as I learned about it, working with facilities and Senate. And then even after I left Senate, the beginning of my junior year, that's when I got the bulk of the work done. So this was something I stayed committed to even when I wasn't on Senate. But thankfully, we got the approval to do it just a couple weeks ago, and this is something that'll be launching on campus in the fall of 2021. So I can't wait to launch this, market it, and then see it sustained for years to come and possibly launching it in more restrooms across campus. Secondly, I'd like to work toward a more universal grading system. I don't know about you guys, but it gets really frustrating when I have one class where a 93 and above is a 4, but then in another, a 90 and above is considered a 4. And I think we need to make that more equitable. And even if that starts with doing it by department or doing it by school, like the School of Nursing, the School of Engineering, if we start small, I think we can work bigger and maybe even have a universal grading system across all of campus. Thirdly, I'd like to work on a closer relationship with athletes and sports on campus. This is a huge population of students. They're a huge draw for our admissions department, and they do a lot for our campus. They get our name out there, and they work hard, and I think we need to bridge the gap between Senate and them. I think for a long time it had to do with our meeting times, and whether or not that's still the case, I think a conversation with them is maybe the first step in bridging that gap. Next, I'd like to work on an interview closet. The food pantry through ISLGP is something that's very popular and is utilized a lot. So similar to that, an interview closet would be donation-based with clothing that students may not use anymore, that other students can go and borrow when they have interviews for internships or big kid jobs, instead of going out and spending money on clothing that us college kids just don't have to use for one interview. They can go borrow the clothes, clean it, and then return it. So it's a sustainable use of clothing. And then it also saves students money and gives them better opportunities for interviews. Lastly, I'd like to work on better communication with students. A lot of students graduate having never gone to a Student Senate meeting, and so if they're not coming to us, I think we need to go to them and meet them where they are. And that could be just with, congratulations on making Dean's List, congratulations on graduating. I think if students know that we're a resource here for them, they're much more likely to use us. And then throughout the course of campaigning, I've had people bring things to my attention that I didn't know were an issue. And I think that's a great example of why we need to be opening the communication with students, because they're more likely to bring things to our attention that we may not know just from hosting a Senate meeting. So we need to be going to students as much as, if not more, than they're coming to us with issues. So that's a little bit about my campaign and my platform. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for all of the support you guys have given me throughout the course of this campaign. And I encourage you to go vote Wednesday through Friday. Even if it's not for me, I encourage you to exercise your civic right as a York College student. And lastly, just be nice to the person next to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sophie. Now I will share Spencer Smith.
My name is Spencer Smith, and I am running for president of Student Senate. I have been on YCP Student Senate since the spring of my freshman year. Since that time, Senate has become a larger and larger part of my life. Throughout my journey as a senator, I have been increasingly involved in student affairs, from bringing up the Sustainability Committee to stepping in as vice president in the spring. The largest strength I have as a candidate is experience. I have not only served on Student Senate, but I have also been the president of the newly rebranded Student Alumni Council. I served as treasurer for both York's ASCE Student Chapter and the NASA Student Launch Team. I'm an Eisenhart Community Service Scholar working directly with students from McKinley Elementary. I worked as a student ambassador and sat on the student board of the college's Evolve Cabinet campaign. In all aspects of my involvement, I strive to constantly challenge myself by continuously pushing outside of my comfort zone. Throughout my work on campus, I have gained a wide knowledge base of how the different aspects of college life work in tandem. As time has gone on, I have learned how to be a better leader and talk to college administration. The most important lesson I have learned was how to approach solving an issue from a constructive point of view. As president, I want to continue to implement sustainable changes on campus. If possible, I would like to approach some of my previous Senate projects from the perspective of a president, rather than a committee chair. Sustainability does not just mean protecting the environment, but also protecting the longevity of our work today. I want to work to ensure that mine and fellow classmates' legacies continue to thrive on campus. It has been a long road to this point, and to become president would be to see my Senate journey to its end. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to present and run for this esteemed position. If elected, I know I won't let you down.
All right, thank you, Spencer. So now we will open up the Zoom floor for questions. Do we have any? Ty Schumacher.
This is a question for both candidates, but I was wondering what other involvements or responsibilities you will be facing next year, and then how do you plan to manage that between Senate and all the other ones?
I could take that first if you don't mind, Sophie. So first I want to point out to highlight what I'm doing right now, but I'm currently on co-op and I'll be on co-op in the fall as well. And so what I've been trying to do is get as much experience as I possibly can right now so that I can really approach my position with, feet on the ground when it comes to the fall. And I'm excited to take that on. Because like I mentioned, I constantly like to challenge myself because it's been proven that that's when you do your best work. And I also one of my biggest things is I want to help represent students that find it tougher to get involved on campus. Specifically, I think the largest of the three majors here at the college, nursing, engineering, and education, a lot of them are very heavily involved with either co-ops or student teaching or practicals. And so I want to work to be a person that is going through that so I know exactly how to address issues and how to work on them. And so I've proven to myself and hopefully to you guys that I'm able to handle that pressure and that rigor so that I can approach my platform from that position come in the fall. So I hope that answers your question.
And then I can share a little bit about that. So that's a great question, Ty. Thanks for asking. So one of the biggest responsibilities that I have on campus is I'm in the presidential research program, which this is a 4-year-long full tuition program where we focus on one research project. And my research project has been around American literature and the American dream. And I'm actually working on finishing it up. I only have like one more chapter to work on. So my hope is that I can be done with that by the end of this year so that next year it can be presenting at conferences. So that's been one of my big stresses over the past few years, and it should be done by the end of next year. And then I'm also involved in Phi Sigma Pi National Honor Fraternity, but I've moved to senior status since I've joined, which means less requirements, less weekly meetings, things like that. And then I'm also involved in orientation, which is, the first weekend of the semester. And then I'm an FYS fellow, which because I'll be in my senior year, my course load is going to be a lot lighter. So the FYS class will just be like another half class added onto my schedule. So I'm confident that I'll be able to manage it. Nick mentioned the program Trello. I use Trello for myself a lot and it helps me stay on track. So thank you for asking.
All right, thank you. Nicholas Cato, you're up next.
Yep. Hi, so I have a question for both Sophie and Spencer. So in many ways, being president of Student Senate is to be the face of Student Senate. Going along with that, my question would be, if you had to pick one thing to define your presidency, assuming you were to get the position, what would that be, and what would be an actionable step you would take to kind of establishing that theme for the year?
I can take this one, if that's okay. I think my one term would be representative. I would want to be representative of every student on campus, every organization on campus. There's a lot of students that tend to get left out. Someone already mentioned that commuters, the past year and a half, myself being one of them, we've been a population that's kind of been left out because we can't be as involved. I'm moving back on campus next year so I can be more available, but that's just one of the communities that's been left out. So by being representative, and I think that starts with a survey of sorts. If we can ask students what we can do for them instead of assuming students need this or, we need to give these students more attention. If we can do a survey and see where students feel like we're lacking, I think we can be much more better in our ability to represent the entire student body.
So I hope this is what you were thinking, but the word that I would hope would describe my time as president would be legacy. It's something that I'm constantly thinking about. I'm a futurist, and so and I really want to work to help not only myself, obviously, but everybody on campus, because we all do so much great work, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. People don't get involved when they should, and some people leave with regrets. And that is the one thing that we can never fix, no matter how many years we continue living on this earth. And so leaving a legacy and leaving a lasting legacy is vitally important. And especially with the position of being president, you are the face of Senate. So everybody that's on Senate, you are in charge of taking care of their legacy, be they a general senator, a committee chair, or an EBoard member. And I want to work to make sure that that's an important part of campus life.
All right, thank you. Alex Santini.
Yeah, hi. So I was going to ask it to both candidates, but Sophie already kind of answered it. So I guess this is just kind of directed towards Spencer. Are you going to be in the York area with your co-op? And if not, how do you plan to run Student Senate from afar, since hopefully things will be returning to normal post-COVID?
So I'm glad that you asked that, because I've been really working hard on that for the past couple of months, because I've been thinking about this and it's very important. So I will be, I'll just say I will be working at home for the fall. I'm working with a sustainability company that I'd love to talk about in detail later, but that's not the main focus of this question. So in order to get around that, and to make sure that I'm there on campus and I'm active, I plan to, if restrictions allow, come into campus as soon as I'm done working on Tuesdays to hit that Tuesday meeting time at 6 o'clock, have that in-person meeting, be there in person, and then take a half day on Wednesday and come back home and or stay on campus and then take a half day on Wednesday so that I can come back home specifically just for those meetings. And then anything, normally when we have extra activities, those happen on weekends. So like retreats, and that my boss is willing to work with me so that I can, go on weekends and go to that type of stuff. And outside of that, I think now people are more comfortable working in a virtual sense. So like meetings and such. And while it's not ideal, my job, I don't want to go into too many specifics, but my job works with me in a way that I can have meetings at more times during the day. So I'm able to schedule meetings with those that I would need to meet with during the day and take care of that. But yeah, mainly the in-person meetings on Tuesday are that big thing that I've been working with my boss to do in come the fall, if restrictions allow, obviously, because we don't know. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
All right, Janaya.
My question's for Sophie. I was wondering, with when talking with different faculty members about a universal grading system, there was a lot of controversies on the faculty side of things. So what is your idea of pitching universal grading to the faculty members?
So I think it's something that needs to start small. We can't go to some huge scale thing all of a sudden. But for example, like I mentioned, I'm an English major. That's a really small department on campus. There's not many of us, but if I have, for example, I have a language and linguistics class right now, and the grading for that is 93 and above is considered a 4, but then I could have a lit class taught next door the next hour, and that's 90 and above. So I think at least within departments, it should be reasonable, and that could even just be working with faculty together, getting them on the same page. But like I said, I believe that it needs to start small before we can move broad. So I don't want to promise that we can make the entire school a universal grading system, because I don't think that's entirely possible, especially not within one semester. But I think starting by departments is a much more feasible goal.
Nick?
All right. So I have a question. It's kind of pronged here, one for each of the candidates. So I want to ask you about two of your kind of signature ideas that I kind of heard pull out to me that were interesting. So Sophie, talking about connecting with varsity, not just club sports. And then Spencer, you talked about sustainability and your current involvement with the Sustainability Club. I'd just like to know a little bit more about how you see each of those programs developing.
So sorry, I don't want to. All right, awesome. So I'm really excited to talk about this, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. It's kind of new, so I can't go into too many big details about it. It'll be developing hopefully as the rest of the semester progresses. But I mentioned in my video, I'm hoping to approach some projects that I started from a president's point of view. And I also mentioned longevity. And so again, I don't want to go into too many specifics because I don't want to, promise anything or, spoil anything that might happen later down the line. But one of the things that other successful colleges have that have already made like the carbon pledge and other sustainable pledges, they have a sustainability department on campus. And so myself and the current head of the president's task force and we have been working on looking at what that would look like on York's campus and how we could pitch that. I don't want to go into any more specifics because I don't want to overstate anything, but we've been working on it since the fall, and it's something that's really, really important to me because I think that would really, like I said, protect the longevity of sustainability on campus. And so yeah, thank you for asking that. I've been wanting to talk about that for a while.
So as far as involving the sports go, this one's kind of a personal one. So my cousin is on the cross country team and track team here at York. And when we were the same age, when we both started at York, we both kind of wanted to go out for Senate together. And then he realized with meetings on Tuesdays at 5, he can't because of practice. And so since then we've moved to a different time. We're on Wednesdays at 9:30. And I think that's a little bit more accessible for athletes to be able to come, but we have so many teams on this campus. Anytime you go into Grumbacher, there's teams practicing. I mean, I lifeguard at 5:45 in the mornings, and swimmers are already there. So it would be difficult to find a time when no teams are practicing, but I think if we can communicate with them and see where we can better serve them, it may not even be a matter of meeting times. It could be a matter of we don't involve them enough. Senators don't go to games, or senators aren't going to enough events to support them. I think we need to start by asking them, how can we better serve you? Because like I said before, it's not fair for Senate to just come in and be like, this is how we're going to serve you. We're going to do this and this and this. We need to ask them what they want so that we can be best serving them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. And thank you, Spencer.
All right, I have 2 questions, and this is for both of you. So I'm currently serving as president of Student Senate. So one thing that I kind of learned more about is my type of leadership style, because I am not only leading Student Senate, but I'm also leading the students of our school, because being the president, you are the facilitator for the voice of the students. So with that being said, what would you say that your leadership style is?
Sophie, I'll let you take this one first since I jumped on the last one.
Yeah, so if I had to describe my leadership style, I don't know that I could come up with a specific word, but I would say I'm a relational leader, where I'm trying to be not close to the people that I'm leading, but if I can understand where they're coming from and what makes them drive and what makes them tick, I feel like I can better nurture them as leaders, and I can better work with them. So I ran a swim lesson program last summer, and I was in charge of 13 guards that taught the kids. And so that was definitely a learning experience, because that was 13 different personalities that I was working with. And I definitely learned that I have to understand where they're coming from in order to better understand how I can help them. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Kind of reminded me of when I taught lessons. It's a little bit of a throwback there, Sophie. So I would say my leadership style is a lead by example, and a lot of people say that to prop themselves up, but I would say all of that, every part of leading by example. So I expect the same stuff out of others that I expect of myself. So I prop others up when they do great work, and I make sure to shout people out when they're doing great things. And I also expect that people will, call me out when I make mistakes, because I'm not perfect, and I'm human. And I also hope that people will reach out to me if there's questions, comments, and concerns, because I know that, I would do the same for them. And I did the same when I was a general senator. I would frequently talk with EBoard members and, become friends with them. And that's how I've run SAC recently. As being president, being the face of that is a very similar ball game. And like I said, I've been trying to hold myself to a high standard, and also, hope that others would then hold themselves to a higher standard as well. Because if we're all great, then the whole college is. And it all starts with us. And the only person that you can really change is yourself. So that's where I always start. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, both of you. And I realized as you were answering both of your questions that this kind of coincides with my second question. So I don't want you to be redundant and kind of repeat yourself. So I won't ask it, but it just had to do with teamwork and working in a team. And I realize your leadership style can be dependent upon you working in teams. So I killed two birds with one stone. So there we go. So does anyone else have any other questions for our presidential candidates? Go ahead, Ty.
It's kind of a follow-up for Spencer, particularly with my first question. I know that this past semester and the one before that, when you were vice president and sustainability chair, you sometimes struggled to meet with administrators because their regular working hours when they would hold meetings would also be during your co-op hours. I was wondering if your co-op hours are the same, and if they are, how do you plan to attend the frequent meetings with administrators that the president has to?
So I mentioned that when I talked briefly about it when Alex asked me about a similar question. So the co-op that I will be working in the fall, I'm trying to not describe the entire thing because I don't want to bog down the question, but basically I'll be working in shifts the entire day. And so if I schedule the meetings around the times when I'm having like those shifts, I'm able to have meetings during the day rather than just saying, because right now I can't have any meetings that are between the hours of 8 and 5, and that is extremely limiting. But during the fall, I won't necessarily have that limit because I'll be able to meet during the day at different times. And what I've been doing this semester is just emailing higher ups and saying, hey, here's what I've got going on. Here's what I really want to do, and just being honest with them. And that's what I mentioned in my video as well, how to take things from a constructive point of view, because we're both very, busy and active people. They, run things on campus, and I hope to help run things on campus too. And so working with them just as much as they work with me is a big thing that I've been tackling this semester and learning from, and taking that and learning from it in the fall is what I hope to do, especially with having more flexible hours during the day is what I hope to really fix that issue. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome, thank you.
Abby.
Okay, my question is for Spencer. You touched a lot on sustainability when you gave your campaign, and I was just curious if there were any other aspects you wanted to focus on during your presidency.
So one thing I said in my video, and I feel it's very, very important, is that sustainability isn't just, can we recycle better, or how do we reduce carbon emissions? But sustainability is truly living a life where the actions that we commit today don't compromise the future. And so if you look at the UN sustainability goals, the first 10 or so have nothing to do with the environment. They are instead looking at the social and economic factors that affect all of us. And there has been a lot of movement right now, and positive movement, I'll say, towards, increasing diversity and talks about that on campus. And so, mental health sustainability, all of these different aspects of sustainability, I'd like to help to bridge the gap between all of those. And like I mentioned, with like a sustainability department, they could work with every group on campus to try and work to unify all of the efforts that different clubs and organizations and people have going on right now, which I think are really positive and can only be strengthened if they had a central hub to work through. And so that's what I have to say to that. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, that wraps up our Student Senate Executive Board debates for tonight. So if you have any other questions throughout the rest of the campaign and elections, because elections are starting tomorrow at 12 p.m. So keep a lookout in your YCP emails because you will be receiving a link to vote. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with those candidates to ask your questions, get your answers, and make sure you vote for your candidates. So thank you all for being here tonight and have a great rest of your night.